Da whispers of the Tao. Close your eyes and imagine stepping through morning mist into a world where time moves differently, where the urgent demands of your day dissolve like dew on bamboo leaves. You're walking on a path worn smooth by countless feet over thousands of years. A path that leads not to another destination on your endless list, but to a way of being that your soul remembers, even if your mind has forgotten. The bamboo forest around you stretches endlessly, each stalk swaying with an ancient rhythm. There's no hurry here, no notifications, no one asking anything of you, just the soft whisper of leaves and the distant sound of water flowing over stones. This is China, 2,500 years ago, and you've arrived at the perfect moment. Just as the first philosophers were discovering something extraordinary about the nature of effortless living. I want you to feel the cool earth beneath your feet as we walk together into this ancient wisdom, because what these early sages understood about flow and ease, what they called wu-wei, it's exactly what your tired heart needs to hear tonight. You've spent another day pushing, striving, making things happen through sheer force of will. But what if I told you there was another way? A way that doesn't require you to be everything to everyone all the time. The morning light filters through the bamboo canopy above us, creating patterns of gold and green that shift and dance without any effort at all. Notice how the light doesn't struggle to illuminate the forest. It simply is. And in being itself, it transforms everything it touches. This is our first glimpse of wu-wei, the art of effortless action that flows like water, finding its way to the sea. As we follow this winding path deeper into the grove, I can almost hear the voices of those ancient teachers, women and men who spent their lives observing the natural world and discovering its secrets. They watched how water always finds the easiest route down a mountain, how trees bend with the wind instead of breaking against it, how a skilled archer draws the bow with minimal effort, letting the arrow find its own perfect trajectory. These weren't abstract philosophical concepts to them. They were practical truths for living, truths that could transform the exhausting daily grind into something more like a dance. And tonight, as you settle into this space between waking and sleeping, these same truths want to find their way into your bones. The path curves ahead, leading us toward the sound of flowing water. But before we reach that hidden stream, let me tell you about the woman who first showed me what wu-wei really means. Her name was Li Qingzhao, though she lived much later than our ancient teachers. In a time when women's wisdom was rarely recorded or celebrated, she was a poet whose words flowed like silk, effortless and strong. Even when war and loss tried to break her, she found ways to bend without breaking, to create beauty from the raw materials of a difficult life. You might not know her name. Most people don't. The history books are full of emperors and generals, but they often forget the women who understood that true power lies not in forcing outcomes, but in aligning with the deeper currents of life. Li Qingzhao knew this secret. She wrote, "I seek the path where effort becomes ease, where my small will joins the larger flow." Can you feel that possibility settling into your chest as we walk? That maybe, just maybe, you don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders, that there might be a way to move through your days that feels less like swimming upstream and more like floating on a gentle current. The bamboo around us grows taller now, reaching toward the sky with an effortless grace that took decades to achieve. Each ring on each stalk marks another year of patient growth. No rushing, no forcing, just steady presence and trust in the process. This is what the ancient Chinese called ziran, naturalness, the art of being authentically yourself without apology or performance. I know how foreign this might feel after a lifetime of being told to push harder, do more, be better. Your days are probably filled with the exhausting work of managing other people's emotions, meeting their expectations, smoothing over conflicts you didn't create. You've become so good at this invisible labor that you've almost forgotten what your own natural rhythm feels like. But your body remembers. As we pause here beside this towering grove, place your hand on your heart and feel its steady beat. This is wu-wei in action. Your heart doesn't strain to pump blood through your veins. It simply follows its ancient programming, trusting in the wisdom that has kept humans alive for millennia. There's no committee meeting in your chest, no strategic planning session, just pure, effortless function. The early Taoist teachers would have smiled at this simple truth. They understood that the universe operates on principles of effortless action, that the most powerful forces in nature accomplish the most with the least apparent effort. Gravity doesn't strain to hold the planets in orbit. The ocean doesn't struggle to create waves. Even the mighty oak tree grows toward the sun without a moment of anxiety about whether it's doing it right. As we continue along this ancient path, I want you to imagine releasing just one burden you've been carrying. Maybe it's the need to fix someone else's problems. Maybe it's the exhausting work of pretending everything is fine when it isn't. Or perhaps it's the constant comparison to other women who seem to have it all figured out. Though I promise you, they're walking their own version of this same path, looking for the same relief you're seeking tonight. The mist is beginning to lift now, revealing more of the forest's quiet majesty. Somewhere ahead, that hidden stream continues its patient work of wearing smooth stones and nourishing roots. It doesn't announce its presence with fanfare or demand recognition for its essential work. It simply flows, following the ancient principle that the softest things in the world overcome the hardest. This is what Lao Tzu meant when he wrote about water being the greatest teacher, not because it's weak, but because it's wise enough to take the path of least resistance while still reaching every destination it needs to reach. Water doesn't fight the shape of its container. It becomes the shape, and in doing so, it often finds ways to transform what contains it. I wonder what might shift in your life if you experimented with this kind of flowing presence. Not giving up or giving in, but finding the spaces where your authentic energy can move freely. Like water, finding the cracks in stone, gradually creating new possibilities through patient, persistent gentleness. The ancient teachers called this yin wisdom, the receptive, intuitive intelligence that knows when to yield and when to stand firm. For too long, our world has celebrated only yang energy, the pushing, achieving, conquering force that burns bright and burns out. But true mastery, true wu-wei, comes from the dance between both energies, knowing when to act and when to simply be. As our path winds toward that promised stream, I can feel your breathing beginning to slow and deepen. This is good. This is your body remembering what it feels like to exist without constant vigilance. The bamboo forest holds us in its ancient embrace, whispering secrets that have been tested by 25 centuries of seekers who were just as tired, just as overwhelmed, just as ready for a different way of being as you are tonight. The sound of water grows clearer now, promising the gentle wisdom that flows at the heart of wu-wei. But we're not rushing toward it. We're learning to trust that some destinations reach us when we're ready to receive them. And you, dear listener, are ready. Ready to discover what happens when effort transforms into ease, when striving becomes flowing, when the ancient art of effortless action begins to reshape your modern life. The stream ahead holds more secrets, more stories of women who found their way to this same flowing wisdom. But for now, just walk with me. Just breathe with the bamboo. Just let yourself be held by this timeless forest where wu-wei was born and where it's waiting to be born again. In you, the stillness of the river. The path curves gently ahead of you, following the stream as it widens into something more generous, more welcoming. The bamboo begins to thin here, creating natural clearings where golden light pools on smooth stones and moss-covered earth. You can hear something new now, the distant sound of human life harmonizing with nature rather than competing against it. Voices that rise and fall like water over rocks. The gentle tap-tap-tapping of tools against clay, the soft laughter of children playing by the water's edge. A village, nestled so perfectly into this landscape that it seems to have grown here naturally, like the bamboo itself. As you emerge from the forest path, you see it spread before you. Low, graceful buildings with curved rooftops that mirror the rolling hills beyond. Gardens that flow seamlessly into wild spaces. Courtyards where the boundary between inside and outside seems almost unnecessary. This is a place where wu-wei lives and breathes. The people move differently here. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to fight against their day? Rushing, forcing, pushing against invisible resistance. But here the villagers move like dancers who've learned the music of their lives by heart. A woman tends her garden, but she's not battling weeds. She's partnering with the earth. A man repairs a roof, but his movements are so fluid, so perfectly timed that the work looks like meditation in motion. And there, beside the widening stream, sits a potter's workshop. The old woman working there. Her hands are ancient maps of wisdom, lined with decades of knowing exactly when to press and when to yield. Her name is Mei Lin, and she has been shaping clay for 70 years. But more than that, she's been letting clay teach her about the art of effortless action. Watch her hands as they cradle the spinning wheel. See how she doesn't force the clay into submission. Instead, she listens to what it wants to become. Her fingers barely seem to touch the surface, yet under her gentle guidance, a simple lump of earth rises into something beautiful. This is wu-wei in its purest form. The clay knows its nature, she says softly, though whether she's speaking to her apprentice or to the universe itself, you cannot tell. My job is not to fight that nature, but to help it remember what it already knows how to be. You settle on a smooth stone nearby, drawn by the hypnotic rhythm of the wheel, the quiet wisdom in her movements. The stream gurgles gently beside you, and you realize this is what your life could feel like. This harmony, this ease. Mei Lin's hands pause for a moment, and she looks up at you with eyes that seem to hold the depth of still water. You carry much effort in your shoulders, she observes gently, much trying, much pushing against the current. You hadn't realized how tense you were until she mentioned it. Your shoulders, yes, they've been holding the weight of so many expectations, so much striving. In the city, she continues, her hands returning to the clay, people believe that harder means better, faster means more successful, but clay, she smiles, clay teaches us different wisdom. Press too hard and it collapses. Rush the process and it cracks. Force it and it breaks. The vessel taking shape under her hands is elegant in its simplicity. No unnecessary flourishes, no desperate attempts to impress. Just perfect rightness. Wu-wei, she says, and the words seem to hang in the air like incense, is not about doing nothing. It is about doing everything, in harmony with the natural flow of things. You watch as she demonstrates, her movements so economical, so precisely timed. When the clay needs support, her hands are there. When it needs space to expand, she gives it room. When it needs gentle correction, she provides it with the lightest touch. Your Western mind, she says with gentle humor, wants to know the rules, the steps, the formula for effortless action, but wu-wei cannot be captured in a list, any more than you can capture the essence of this stream in a bucket. The water beside you catches the afternoon light, fracturing it into 1,000 tiny rainbows. each drop unique, yet all flowing in the same direction, all part of the same greater movement toward the sea. Instead, Mei Lin continues, we learn by watching, by feeling, by becoming so attuned to the natural rhythms around us that we begin to move in harmony with them. She gestures toward the village around you. See how the buildings follow the contours of the land rather than imposing upon it, how the gardens work with the existing plants rather than replacing them entirely, how the people here move with the seasons rather than against them. You do see it now. The whole village is an expression of wu-wei, human life arranged not in opposition to nature, but as part of its greater symphony. This is what your ancestors knew, she says softly, before the world became so complicated, before effort became a badge of honor and exhaustion became a measure of worth. Her words land in your chest like smooth stones dropped into still water, creating ripples of recognition. Yes, you have been wearing your tiredness like armor, haven't you? Proof of your dedication, evidence of your value. But what if, she asks, as the vessel on her wheel reaches its perfect height and begins to slow, what if your worth was never in question? What if you could trust that you are enough, exactly as you are, without all the striving and proving and endless effort? The potter's wheel comes to a gentle stop. The vessel sits there, complete and beautiful, created through partnership rather than force. Mei Lin's hands rest quietly in her lap, clay still coating her fingers like ancient wisdom made tangible. The river never struggles to reach the sea, she observes, nodding toward the stream. It simply follows the path of least resistance and arrives exactly where it needs to be, exactly when it needs to be there. You close your eyes and listen to the water's gentle conversation with the stones. Such a simple sound, yet it contains everything you need to know about effortless action. The water doesn't fight the rocks. It flows around them. It doesn't resist the curves in the bank. It follows them gracefully. It doesn't struggle against gravity. It partners with it. And still, it carves canyons. Still, it nourishes forests. Still, it reaches the vast ocean. This is your invitation, Mei Lin says, her voice as gentle as the evening breeze that's beginning to stir the bamboo leaves. Not to do less, but to do everything you do from this place of flow, this place of trust, this place of harmony with the deeper currents of life. You feel something shifting in your chest, a loosening, a softening, like clay remembering its willingness to be shaped by gentle, knowing hands. The village around you begins to glow in the golden hour light. Cooking fires send thin ribbons of smoke into the peaceful air. Children's voices blend with the sound of the stream. Somewhere, someone is playing a wooden flute, the melody wandering like water, finding its way home. This is what life feels like when it's lived in harmony with wu-wei, not empty or passive, but full of purposeful, effortless action, rich with meaning that doesn't require struggle to prove its worth. You are beginning to remember something you once knew, something your soul has always known. That ease and effectiveness are not opposites, that grace and strength can dance together, that the most powerful action often feels like no action at all. The Potter's Way. Mei Lin's hands move like water over the clay, shaping without grasping, guiding without controlling. You watch from your place beside the wheel as she demonstrates what it means to work with, rather than against, the natural world. The clay teaches me, she says softly, her voice barely above a whisper. I do not impose my will upon it. I listen. I feel. I allow it to show me what it wants to become. Her fingers barely touch the spinning earth, yet somehow a bowl begins to emerge, not forced into existence, but coaxed, invited, welcomed into being. There's something magical about this process, something that speaks to the deepest part of you. In my younger days, Mei Lin continues. I tried to make the clay obey. I pressed harder when it resisted. I fought when it wobbled. Every pot was a battle, and most of them broke. You can see the wisdom lines around her eyes, carved by years of learning this ancient truth. That resistance creates more resistance. That force begets force. That the harder you grip, the more likely something is to slip through your fingers. Then my grandmother taught me about wu-wei. She said, the water never fights the rock, yet it carves the deepest canyons. Mei Lin's hands pause for just a moment, honoring this memory. I learned to become like water with the clay. The bowl grows taller under her gentle guidance. You notice how she yields when the clay wants to expand, how she supports when it needs strength, how she knows exactly when to act and when to simply be present. This is the potter's way, the ancient way, the way that honors both the creator and the created. You think about your own life, all the places where you've been pushing against the clay of your circumstances, forcing conversations that want to flow differently, demanding outcomes that haven't ripened yet, fighting the natural rhythm of your days, your relationships, your own creative process. Watch what happens when I try too hard, Mei Lin says, deliberately pressing her fingers more firmly into the clay. Immediately, the bowl begins to wobble. The walls thin dangerously. The whole structure threatens to collapse. But instead of panicking, instead of pressing harder to fix it, she simply releases. Her touch becomes light again, patient again. The clay responds by finding its center once more. You see? She smiles. The clay forgives. It always wants to return to balance, but only if I let it. In the distance, you can hear the sound of the village awakening to another day. Children's laughter mingles with the gentle lowing of water buffalo. Somewhere, a flute plays a melody that seems to dance with the morning breeze. This entire community lives by the potter's way. You've been watching it all morning. The way the baker doesn't rush the bread but allows it to rise in its own time. The way the gardener tends the vegetables with patient attention rather than anxious interference. The way even the children play with a kind of flowing ease, their games unfolding naturally rather than being rigidly structured. My grandmother used to say that life is like a river. Mei Lin continues, her hands now shaping the rim of the bowl with exquisite delicacy. You can swim with the current and reach your destination with grace, or you can fight against it and arrive exhausted if you arrive at all. The bowl is nearly finished now. It's not perfect in the way a machine might make it perfect. One side is slightly higher than the other. The surface bears the gentle impressions of human hands. There's a small irregularity near the base where the clay decided to express its own nature. And yet, it's beautiful. More beautiful, perhaps, because of these imperfections. They tell a story. They speak of the collaboration between human intention and natural flow. They whisper of wu-wei. In your world, Mei Lin says, reading your thoughts with uncanny accuracy, you are taught to fear the imperfections, to sand them away, to hide them, to pretend they don't exist. But here we understand that the irregularities are often where the true beauty lives. She lifts the bowl from the wheel with careful reverence. In the morning light, you can see how the clay seems to glow with its own inner warmth. This is what happens when something is created through wu-wei. It carries a different energy, a different presence. The ancient sage Lao Tzu wrote about this, Mei Lin says, cradling the bowl like a newborn. He understood that the usefulness of a bowl comes not from the clay itself, but from the emptiness within, the space that allows it to hold water, to nourish, to serve. You feel this truth settling into your bones. How often have you filled your life so completely with doing that there's no space left for being? How often have you packed your schedule so tightly that there's no room for spontaneity, for inspiration, for the unexpected gifts that life wants to offer? Wu-wei teaches us about the power of emptiness. Mei Lin continues, not the emptiness of lack, but the emptiness of potential, like this bowl, like the space between your thoughts, like the pause between your heartbeats. She sets the bowl on a shelf with others, each one unique, each one telling its own story of the dance between intention and surrender. Some are tall and elegant, others are wide and generous. A few have unexpected curves that speak of moments when the clay had its own ideas about beauty. Would you like to try? Mei Lin asks, gesturing toward the wheel. Your first instinct is to protest, to say you don't know how, that you might ruin the clay, that you're not artistic enough. But something in her gentle presence makes these fears seem unnecessary. This isn't about creating a perfect pot. This is about experiencing wu-wei for yourself. You settle beside the wheel as Mei Lin places a fresh mound of clay at its center. Your hands feel awkward at first, unsure. The clay seems to have a will of its own, wobbling and shifting under your inexperienced touch. Breathe, Mei Lin reminds you. Feel the clay's desire to be centered. Don't force it. Invite it. Gradually, you begin to relax. Your breathing deepens. Your grip softens. And something miraculous begins to happen. The clay starts to respond, not to your demands, but to your presence, not to your forcing, but to your allowing. It's not becoming a perfect bowl. It's becoming something else entirely, something that could only emerge from this particular moment, this particular collaboration between your hands and the clay's nature. This is wu-wei, Mei Lin whispers. This feeling in your hands right now, this sense of working with rather than against, this is what it feels like to move through life in harmony with the Tao. The Tao, the ancient Chinese understanding of the fundamental nature of existence, the invisible current that flows through all things, the way that is beyond forcing, beyond grasping, beyond the exhausting effort of trying to control what cannot be controlled. As your small creation takes shape under your hands, you begin to understand something profound. This isn't just about pottery. This isn't just about ancient Chinese philosophy. This is about remembering a way of being that your soul recognizes as home. A way of moving through your days with the fluid grace of water, a way of responding to challenges with the flexible strength of bamboo, a way of creating that honors both your intention and life's mysterious unfolding. The potter's way, the way of wu-wei, the way that leads not to perfection, but to something far more precious, authenticity, flow, peace. Finding harmony in simplicity. As you sit with this understanding, feeling the clay's wisdom still soft on your fingertips, you notice the gentle sounds of village life continuing around you. The potter's workshop sits at the heart of this ancient place, and through its open doorway you can see the simple rhythms that have sustained this community for generations. A farmer walks slowly past, his weathered hands carrying a wooden bucket. There's no hurry in his steps, no tension in his shoulders. He moves like someone who has learned that the earth has its own timing, and that fighting against nature's pace only creates suffering. You watch as he approaches his small field, where neat rows of vegetables grow in the rich, dark soil. The morning sun catches the dewdrops on broad green leaves, creating tiny prisms of light. The farmer sets down his bucket and kneels beside the first row. His hands move with the same unhurried grace you witnessed in Mei Lin's pottery. He doesn't yank at weeds or force his will upon the plants. Instead, he works with gentle attention, reading what each plant needs, responding to what he finds rather than imposing a rigid plan. When he encounters a stubborn weed, he doesn't pull harder. He pauses, feels around its roots with patient fingers, and waits for the moment when the earth releases its hold. The weed comes free with barely any effort, leaving the surrounding soil undisturbed. You realize you're witnessing wu-wei in its most fundamental form. This farmer isn't battling his field, he's dancing with it, partnering with forces larger than himself to create abundance through cooperation rather than conquest. The scene reminds you of your own relationship with the challenges in your life. How often do you approach difficulties like weeds to be yanked out by force? How much energy do you spend fighting against circumstances that might yield more easily to patient, gentle attention? The farmer moves to the next row, and you notice how he works with the natural curve of his spine rather than forcing his back into uncomfortable positions. When he needs to reach further, he shifts his whole body fluidly rather than straining. Every movement flows from the one before it, like water finding its natural course down a hillside. This is what your ancestors knew, before the world convinced you that everything worthwhile required struggle. That ease was laziness, that if you weren't exhausted, you weren't trying hard enough. But here, in this timeless village, you remember a different way, a way that honors both effort and ease, intention and surrender, your deepest desires and life's mysterious unfolding. The farmer finishes his work and rises slowly, brushing the earth from his knees. He picks up his bucket and walks toward the village well, still moving with that same unhurried grace. You realize he's not just tending vegetables, he's practicing an ancient art of living. Your attention drifts to another corner of the village square, where an elderly woman sits in the shade of a broad tree. Her fingers work steadily, weaving thin strips of bamboo into an intricate basket. The pattern emerges without apparent effort, as if the basket is weaving itself through her hands. You move closer, drawn by the hypnotic rhythm of her work. Over, under, around. Over, under, around. Each strip of bamboo finds its place in the growing pattern with fluid precision. There are no forced movements, no frustrated corrections, just the steady dance of cooperation between human intention and natural material. The weaver's face holds the same peaceful concentration you've seen in Mei Lin and the farmer. She's completely present with her work, yet there's no strain in her attention. She's focused the way a flower is focused on blooming, naturally, inevitably, without effort. As you watch, one of the bamboo strips begins to crack. In your world, this might cause frustration, a sense of ruined perfection, but the weaver simply pauses, runs her finger along the crack, and incorporates it into the pattern. The flaw becomes part of the basket's unique beauty. This, too, is wu-wei, not the pursuit of flawless execution, but the art of working gracefully with whatever arises, turning obstacles into opportunities, finding beauty in imperfection, dancing with life rather than demanding it conform to your expectations. The weaver glances up and smiles at you, her eyes crinkling with quiet joy. Without words, she's sharing the secret of her craft. The basket isn't just a container she's making, it's a meditation she's living, a prayer she's weaving, a practice of presence that transforms simple materials into something both beautiful and useful. Above you, clouds begin to gather in the afternoon sky. The air grows heavy with the promise of rain. In your usual world, this might signal inconvenience. Plans to be changed, schedules to be adjusted, but here, you feel only anticipation for another demonstration of wu-wei. The first drops fall gently, pattering against the broad leaves overhead. The farmer looks up from his field and smiles. The weaver gathers her work and moves deeper under the tree's canopy, but there's no urgency, no resistance to this change in weather. The rain begins in earnest now, drumming softly against the curved tile roofs. You take shelter in the potter's workshop, watching through the doorway as the village transforms. The dust settles, the air clears, the plants lift their faces gratefully toward the sky. This is rain practicing wu-wei. It doesn't force its way downward. It simply follows gravity's gentle invitation, finding the path of least resistance while nourishing everything it touches. It pools in low places, flows around obstacles, and gives itself completely to whatever it encounters. You listen to the rain's conversation with the roof above your head. Each drop finds its own note in the symphony, some high and bright on the curved tiles, others deep and resonant in the wooden gutters. The rain isn't trying to make music, yet music emerges naturally from its simple, authentic action. Mei Lin appears beside you, drawn by the same peaceful sound. Together you stand watching the rain paint the village in shades of silver and green. The air smells of wet earth and growing things. The rain knows something we often forget, she says quietly. It gives itself completely to each moment, yet never loses its essential nature. It can be gentle mist or powerful storm, but it's always perfectly itself. You nod, understanding flooding through you like the rain itself. This is what you've been searching for without knowing it. Not a way to become someone else, but a way to be more authentically yourself. Not a method for controlling life, but a practice of dancing with whatever comes. The rain continues its gentle teaching, and you realize that every moment offers this same invitation to flow rather than force, to respond rather than react, to trust the intelligence that moves through you when you stop trying to micromanage every detail. In the rhythm of rain on roof, in the farmer's patient hands, in the weaver's flowing fingers, in the potter's gentle strength, you're discovering that wu-wei isn't something exotic or foreign. It's as natural as breathing, as fundamental as your own heartbeat. It's the way you moved through the world before you learned to doubt your instincts, before you were taught that everything worthwhile required struggle, before you forgot that you, too, are part of nature's flowing intelligence. The rain begins to soften, and shafts of golden sunlight pierce the clouds. Steam rises gently from the warming earth. The village emerges refreshed, renewed, ready for whatever comes next. And so do you. The echoes of Zhuangzhou. As the last drops of rain catch the afternoon light like scattered diamonds, you notice someone approaching along the village path. An elderly man walks with unhurried steps, his simple robes flowing around him like water itself. There's something timeless about his presence, as if he carries the wisdom of centuries in the gentle curve of his smile. This is Zhuangzhou, though the villagers simply call him teacher. He moves through the world with such natural grace that you understand immediately why people seek his guidance. Not because he demands attention, but because he embodies the very principles you've been discovering. "Welcome, friend," he says, settling beside you on a smooth stone beneath the ancient oak tree. His voice carries the warmth of summer rain on dry earth. "I see you've been learning about the way of flowing water." You find yourself nodding, feeling somehow that this man sees straight to the heart of things, that he understands the weight you've been carrying and the lightness you've been discovering. "There's an old story," Zhuangzhou begins, his eyes twinkling with gentle mischief, about a woman who spent her days polishing mirrors. Hour after hour, she worked to make each surface perfectly clear, perfectly bright. But the harder she polished, the more clouded they became. You lean in, drawn by the rhythm of his words, the way they seem to settle something restless in your chest. One morning, exhausted from her efforts, she simply stopped. She set down her cloth and really looked at one of the mirrors for the first time in years. And there, beneath all her frantic polishing, she discovered that the mirror had always been clear. Her very effort to perfect it had been creating the cloudiness she was trying to remove. The afternoon light filters through the leaves above, creating dancing patterns on the ground. You feel something shifting inside you, a recognition so deep it's almost like remembering a dream. "How often," Zhuangzhou continues softly, "do we polish mirrors that are already clear? How often do we exhaust ourselves trying to fix what was never broken?" His words land gently, without judgment. There's no suggestion that you should feel foolish for all your efforts, all your striving, only a tender invitation to consider. What if you've been enough all along? I once dreamed I was a butterfly, he says, gazing up at the clouds drifting lazily overhead. Such a vivid dream. I could feel the wind beneath my wings, the freedom of dancing from flower to flower with no destination in mind. When I woke, I wondered, am I Zhuangzhou who dreamed of being a butterfly? Or am I a butterfly now dreaming of being Zhuangzhou? You smile at this beautiful puzzle, feeling your mind soften around its edges rather than trying to solve it. The question itself is the teaching, he explains gently. When we stop insisting that we know exactly who we are, exactly what we should be doing, exactly how everything should unfold, we discover something magnificent. We discover that we are both the dreamer and the dream, both the river and the water flowing through it. A butterfly lands on your hand, as if summoned by his words. Its wings are gossamer thin, painted in shades of amber and gold. You hold perfectly still, not wanting to disturb its delicate presence. See how it trusts? Zhuangzhou observes. It doesn't question whether your hand is safe. It doesn't analyze the decision. It simply follows its nature and finds exactly what it needs. The butterfly rests there for a long moment, its wings opening and closing in a rhythm that matches your own breathing. Then, without ceremony, it lifts into the air and disappears among the bamboo. This is the freedom that comes with wu-wei, Zhuangzhou says. Not the freedom to control everything, but the freedom to trust your own nature, to trust the intelligence that beats your heart and grows your hair and heals your cuts without any conscious effort from you. You feel tears prick your eyes, not from sadness, but from relief. How long have you been holding yourself responsible for outcomes beyond your control? How long have you been trying to orchestrate symphonies when your only job was to play your own instrument? The ancient masters, he continues, understood something we often forget in our rushing world. They knew that a tree doesn't struggle to grow, a river doesn't force its way to the sea, a flower doesn't strain to bloom. His voice grows even softer, more intimate. And you, dear one, you don't have to force your way to peace. You don't have to earn your worthiness. You don't have to solve every problem or heal every wound or perfect every flaw before you're allowed to rest. The village around you continues its gentle rhythm. Children's laughter drifts from somewhere nearby. The sound of Mei Lin's pottery wheel turns steadily in the distance, life flowing as life flows, without apology, without explanation. Sometimes, Zhuangzhou says, the most radical thing we can do is nothing at all, not the nothing of giving up, but the nothing of giving in to what wants to emerge naturally, giving in to our own deep wisdom. You close your eyes and feel it. That deep wisdom he speaks of. It's been there all along beneath the noise and worry and endless mental chatter. Quiet as an underground spring, steady as the earth's rotation. What if, he suggests gently, instead of asking, how do I fix this, you began asking, how do I flow with this? Instead of, how do I control this outcome, you wondered, how do I trust this process? The questions settle into your bones like warm honey, not demanding immediate answers, but creating space for new possibilities to emerge. The butterfly doesn't know where it's going, Zhuangzhou reminds you, but it never doubts that it belongs in the sky. You open your eyes and find him smiling at you with such kindness that you feel seen all the way through, not judged, not analyzed, simply seen, accepted, welcomed, exactly as you are. Rest here as long as you need, he says, rising with the same fluid grace with which he arrived. The village will hold you. The earth will support you, and your own wise nature will guide you home. As he walks away, his footsteps make no sound on the soft earth. You watch until he disappears around a bend in the path, but somehow his presence lingers, in the warm stone beneath you, in the gentle breeze stirring the bamboo, in the growing sense that you are exactly where you need to be. The afternoon light grows golden and thick as honey. Somewhere in the distance, temple bells chime softly, their sound carrying across the valley like a blessing. You breathe deeply and feel yourself settling, not just into this peaceful place, but into the peace that has always lived within you. The peace that requires no effort to maintain. The peace that is your birthright. Diur, the moonlit peak. As the temple bells fade into silence, you find yourself drawn to walk, not with purpose or destination, but simply because your feet want to move. This is wu-wei in motion, following the gentle impulse without question or plan. The path winds upward through the bamboo, each step feeling effortless, as if the mountain itself is lifting you higher. You're not climbing. You're being carried by something larger than effort, something that flows like water finding its way to the sea. Behind you, the village grows smaller, its gentle smoke rising in perfect spirals. Mei Lin's pottery wheel sits still now, but you can feel its wisdom spinning within you, that patient turning, that yielding to the clay's own nature. You carry this knowing in your bones now, this understanding that the most beautiful things emerge not from force, but from a kind of sacred listening. The farmer's field spreads below like a green tapestry, each row planted not in rigid lines, but in harmony with the land's natural contours. Even from this height, you can sense his gentle presence, the way he works with the seasons rather than against them, trusting the earth to do what earth does best. This too lives in you now, this faith in natural timing, natural unfolding. The bamboo forest whispers its eternal song, each stalk swaying in perfect coordination, without a conductor, without a plan. Just wind and bamboo and the ancient dance between them. You breathe with this rhythm now, no longer fighting your own nature, no longer exhausting yourself trying to be other than what you are. Higher you walk, and the air grows thin and sweet. The path curves around ancient stones, worn smooth by countless feet, countless seekers who have walked this way before you. You are part of this river of pilgrims, all searching for the same thing, the peace that was never lost, only forgotten. As twilight deepens, the first stars appear like scattered diamonds on dark silk. The moon, nearly full, rises behind distant peaks, casting everything in silver light. This is the hour between day and night, between effort and rest, between seeking and finding, the hour when wu-wei reveals itself most clearly. In the effortless transition from light to darkness, in the way night falls without anyone making it happen, you reach a small clearing where the path opens onto a stone outcropping. Before you stretches a vista so vast it takes your breath away. Peak after peak, rolling into the distance, each one touched with moonlight, each one perfect in its stillness. This is where you were meant to arrive, not through struggle or striving, but through simple willingness to follow where the path led. You settle onto a smooth boulder, still warm from the day's sun, and feel yourself becoming part of this ancient landscape. The exhaustion you carried up the mountain, the weight of trying to be everything to everyone, the endless effort of performing and pleasing and proving, all of it dissolves in the moonlight like mist. Here, in this vast silence, you remember who you were before the world taught you to be tired, before you learned to carry burdens that were never yours to bear, before you forgot that your worth doesn't depend on your productivity, your value doesn't require constant demonstration, your love doesn't need to be earned through endless giving. The moon climbs higher, and its light transforms everything it touches. The peaks become luminous, otherworldly, like sleeping giants wrapped in silver dreams. You are witnessing something sacred, the earth at rest, the mountains in their eternal meditation, the sky holding it all with infinite tenderness. This is wu-wei at its most profound. This cosmic effortlessness, this universal flow that requires no management from you. The moon doesn't strain to shine. The mountains don't work to stand. The stars don't effort their way across the sky. Everything simply is, and in its being, everything is perfect. You feel yourself relaxing into this same perfection, not the perfection of flawless performance, but the perfection of natural being. Like the bamboo that bends without breaking, like the water that flows around obstacles, like the potter's hands that know exactly how much pressure to apply and when to yield. You are learning to trust your own inner wisdom. The cool night air carries the scent of jasmine and pine, of earth and sky mingling in perfect harmony. You breathe deeply and feel yourself expanding. Not with effort or intention, but the way a flower opens to moonlight, the way a river widens as it approaches the sea. You are becoming more yourself by doing less, finding your true nature by releasing what was never yours to begin with. Below, the village sleeps peacefully, its windows glowing like gentle stars. You can almost see the dreams floating above the rooftops. Dreams of harvest and pottery wheels, of bamboo baskets and morning tea, of simple lives lived in harmony with the rhythms of earth and sky. These people have something the world has forgotten, the art of being rather than doing, the grace of flowing rather than forcing. And now this art lives in you too, in your breath, which has found its natural rhythm, in your heartbeat, which no longer races with anxiety but pulses with the steady confidence of someone who knows she belongs exactly where she is. In your thoughts, which have grown quiet and spacious, like a clear mountain lake reflecting the moon. The temple bells begin their midnight song, drifting up from the valley like prayers made audible. Each note hangs in the air before dissolving into silence, teaching the same lesson. That beauty lies not in grasping or holding, but in allowing things to arise and pass away in their own perfect timing. You close your eyes and feel yourself merging with this moonlit peace, becoming one with the mountain's ancient stillness, with the sky's infinite patience, with the earth's unconditional support. You are held by something so much larger than your small struggles, so much wiser than your worried mind, so much more loving than your harsh inner critic. This is what wu-wei has been teaching you all along, that you don't have to earn your place in this universe. You don't have to justify your existence through constant productivity. You don't have to exhaust yourself proving your worth. You belong here simply because you are, and your being is enough, more than enough. It is everything. The moonlight grows stronger, transforming the world into a silver dream. You feel yourself becoming translucent, permeable, like moonlight itself. No longer a separate self struggling against the current, but part of the flow, part of the dance, part of the eternal wu-wei that moves through all things without effort or strain. Your breathing deepens and slows, matching the mountain's ancient rhythm. Your thoughts grow soft and scattered, like clouds drifting across the moon's face. Your body releases into the stone's warm embrace, supported completely, held absolutely, cradled by the earth that has been waiting for you to remember that you are her daughter, her beloved child, her perfect creation. The last thing you see before sleep takes you is the moon at its zenith, pouring silver light across the peaks like a benediction, like a blessing, like a gentle hand stroking your forehead and whispering the words you've been longing to hear. You are enough. You are loved. You are exactly as you should be. And in the morning you will carry this knowing back into the world, not as something you must protect or prove, but as something that flows through you as naturally as breath, as effortlessly as moonlight touching stone, as gracefully as bamboo, bending in the eternal wind that knows no beginning and no end. Only the endless dance of wu-wei, the pathless path that leads you always home to yourself.